Welcome to VHS Boys. Today we're talking about The Patriot, aka Colonial Braveheart. It's a 2000 American propaganda blockbuster directed by the disaster movie auteur Roland Emmerich. Of Godzilla and
he did Universal Soldier, right?
I think so. He did it.
Oh, he did the Godzilla '98.
He did Godzilla '98.
Man.
Yeah, with Broderick. Yeah, with that classic.
And wasn't Godzilla kind of a bomb?
Yeah, I think it flopped.
Did it flop?
I
know
remember
it was a huge push with like marketing and shit. The movie was huge.
Oh yeah, the kids' toys, McDonald's tie-ins, and all that. Yeah, it was really.
Now, The Patriot, unfortunately, did not have a Happy Meal tie-in toy.
I mean, it had a sad meal toy. But actually, the reason I chose this movie this week, Gary, is because it's the 25th anniversary of the movie. In fact, it was released June 27th, 2000, and it's actually the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington, which was the first battle against the British in the Revolutionary War.
Because this movie is a bit of like a Forrest Gump of the Revolutionary War. It's like,
right.
This one guy just happens to be involved in
with everything. Yeah. Oh, he helped Elvis shake his hip.
So it's like, of course, you're making a feature film. You got to boil the storytelling down to like a 90-minute.
90 minutes, Gary. This movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
I rented this movie last week on Monday, and I watched like an hour of it, and then I was like, I'll watch the rest later. And you only get 48 hours to watch something when you rent it on Amazon.
Sure.
I waited so long to watch the end of this movie, I couldn't watch the last 20 minutes, and then I had to just like look up the last battle scene on YouTube.
Oh, okay, nice. But you guys get to
so
see
I've seen like 90% of the movie.
Okay, sweet. Well, that's more than you need to gear.
So is this this takes place in South Carolina, correct?
Yes.
And did South Carolina, they had slavery, right?
They did have slavery, yes. In fact, approximately 25% of the colonial population in 1773 owned slaves.
So it's just like a politically correct decision to take the slavery out of this movie.
Yes.
And it's like, I don't know, I got mixed feelings about that.
As did a lot of viewers, Gary. It starts out and you just assume they're slaves, right? Because we're on this plantation and there's a bunch of black people working out in the field. And you're like, okay, slavery in the 1700s. Turns out, though, that he actually, that Mel's character, Benjamin, has hired freedmen. And so he, one, has money already because he can hire people. So he's not just forcing his kids to go work the fields. So cool. He's like a well-to-do American already.
Well, I feel like either you're farming in the sense of like you have a family farm or you have a plantation.
Right.
But not usually both.
Not both, right. But he's out there helping his hired hands to plow the fields and whatnot. But in fact, during pre-production, the producers toyed with the idea of Benjamin being a slave owner, and they ultimately decided against it because it would make him like a more likable person. Spike Lee saw this movie and he said,
was Spike Lee upset about it?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, I could never see that happening.
He came out the movie fuming and he was like, I can't believe they whitewashed history like that, And to his point, sure. What I did like about this movie, Gary, was the cinematography. I thought these like big John Ford inspired super wide shots of like the American countryside and just huge crowd scenes, and the lighting was beautiful, like all the colors that they used. The night sky gives off like the most radiant blue every time you see it, which is neat. But I think, just the smoke and the atmosphere, just everything really worked to make me feel like I was there.
Yeah, the cinematography is great, and it looks like they were trying to like reference a colonial era paintings of the Revolutionary War with Caravaggio-esque lighting and like almost like Renaissance style painting.
Right, yeah,
it's
like the backlit smoke and yeah.
Yeah, the movie looks great. Classic looking, really well shot.
Totally. And then on top of that, you got like 123 on-screen kills. You have an Academy Award nominated score by John Williams, 800 extras, 1,200 military costumes oversaw by the Smithsonian Institute to make sure that they were historically accurate, which is kind of the first time the Smithsonian ever did something like that. Everything kind of comes together to make this like epic blockbuster of the 2000s that to my 12-year-old version of me was like, 5 out of 5. This is the coolest movie I've ever seen. You see that guy get his head taken off by a cannonball? Holy shit. But now as an adult, I feel like it's kind of long. It's kind of long.
very long,
It's a little bit boring. It's definitely super melodramatic for like just over the top. And kind of you're rooting for like a deeply broken man played by a now known super broken man. You know, I'd probably give it 3 out of 5 stars, which is like middling. If you like epic movies of that type or whatever, I think it's a cool watch.
I think I'm going to take the easy way out, Russ, and give it a 2.5.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
really splitting it down the middle.
Okay.
It's not the worst thing, but I don't know if it's really worth recommending.
Okay.
It's kind of forgettable.
You know what? I'm dropping half a star too.
I convinced you that easily.
You convinced me.
It was fine. It's kind of forgettable.
It's just fine, yeah. I think watch Braveheart.
There's some impressive filmmaking in it. Overall, I don't think the storytelling is really that great.
Sure.
But
So-
it wasn't the worst thing.
Then let's get into it. Mel Gibson plays Benjamin Martin, who is a loose amalgamation of real-life historical figures, Thomas Sumter, Andrew Pickens, and Francis Marion, a.k.a. the Swamp Fox, who taught colonists how to use guerrilla tactics to fight in the Revolutionary War. Harrison Ford actually declined this role, feeling the script had boiled the Revolutionary War down to a one-man's revenge story. And I have to agree. So we start off, we're introduced to Benjamin. He's a widower. He's got 7 kids that he doesn't really know how to talk to. One is mute or doesn't talk to him. We introduced him. He's just sitting around, doesn't know how to talk to his kids. He makes a chair, but the chair breaks and he gets mad and he chucks it across the room. And it's played for laughs, but it's showing him to be like an explosive and kind of violent person, you know? Everyone's like, he's making his chair, stay away from him. He's going to get pissed and start throwing things. So the colonists gather, you know, there's talk of war. And so the colonies get together and they start discussing this. And what I found was interesting during this scene is that Mel is anti-government. And he says, quote, "Why should I trade one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away?" Which is actually like almost a verbatim quote by some
Kind of like you're
historical-
going to be governed by somebody.
by somebody no matter what, right? Yeah. And to his point, sure, I could see that, but he also believes in no taxation without representation and a lot of other like fundamental American values, which led us to fight in the Revolutionary War. You know?
Yeah, he's reluctant at first, and he's kind of pushed into it by the actions of the British.
Yes, I mean just because he's against it, but ultimately it comes to his literal front lawn.
Yeah, and they make the one British general like the real bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, a lot more of the British generals, they're almost like ambivalent. Whether the one guy's just like, no, kill the child, kill all the children.
Kill children and the POWs, everybody here.
And it comes off a bit like just like a movie character. It doesn't really
Yeah.
feel like a real character.
Colonel Tavington is the name of the character, played by Jason Isaacs. The real character is based on a real person named Colonel Banastra Tarleton, who was Cornwallis's cavalry commander and did have like a reputation for being brutal, but I don't think to the degree that they took it in this movie. Yeah. They really amped it up for like drama. And in fact, Kevin Spacey was the first choice to play Tavington. But after Mel's $25 million paycheck, I guess there was only enough budget for one problematic actor.
Yeah, I mean, if it was Kevin Spacey, he wouldn't have killed this kid. He would have just like kissed him on the neck.
Mel's son, Heath Ledger, signs up for the war. That's kind of like a big part. And actually, Heath was not a super big actor at this point.
And isn't he also Australian?
Is he? That sounds right.
I think so. He doesn't really look like Mel Gibson, but it works enough, I guess. It's a big flat head Heath Ledger.
Yeah, sure.
Great to put Joker makeup on.
Yeah.
If I was a makeup guy and that guy came in, I'd be like, oh, look at that palette. It's
perfect.
a big flat face for me to just paint up.
The movie was like really long, and I think it's because they also tried to shoehorn in this like extra B plot of like this romance between Heath and this chick Anne or something.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's just too much. It's too much to add there. We don't need like he's gonna get killed. Spoiler alert. And so like that's enough tragedy. We don't also need his wife to get killed in a church burning accident, and right after their wedding and all this sort of stuff. Before we get to that, I want to jump back to when they're courting. Heath is courting Anne. He comes over. He's just hanging out, and he's gonna stay the night there at the girlfriend's house. And so the mother sews him into like a burlap bag so they can't engage in sexual intercourse. And actually, this was a real thing. It was called bundling.
Really?
It was called bundling bag, and it was a traditional courting practice of sharing a bed, but sewing a bundle into a couple, either both of them, and then either up to their waists or their whole bodies, and or putting like a plank between the two of them, so they could share a bed, but it dissuades sexual intercourse. Though you could definitely still eat pussy with your head out.
Yeah.
Or
I think because of the hygiene of the times, oral sex probably wasn't high on the docket.
oh yeah, you probably didn't. You probably went about.
But it is weird.
It is weird.
I mean, you just put them, make one sleep in another room.
Yeah, just make them sleep in another room. So this nighttime battle comes to Benjamin's front yard, and his kids get to witness the horrors of war firsthand. In the morning, they go out and they help all these people who have been injured, and we meet the evil villain, Colonel Tavington, who ends up shooting Benjamin's son right in the back and sneering, like, stupid boy, which is like just to rub some salt in a wound. And we know Mel's going to go killing. He's going to go a-killing. So he goes out and he grabs his guns and he grabs his two young boys, and they kind of take out this whole
they pretty much massacre a whole like little troop of redcoats there. In brutal fashion.
His sons are shooting. He's busy running around with 3 rifles in his hand. He's like juggling them and shooting them, and then he like just starts chopping people with his hatchet, and he just keeps chopping, and he just chops this dude for like a good minute. And then he gets up all covered in blood, dripping, turns back to his kids. But then there's this weird thing where he like walks off with his kids, and he like fades away. There's like a weird edit where it's like a crossfade, and he just fades. And it's like the one time they really get kind of experimental with the editing in this movie. And I was wondering, is that maybe the character of Benjamin we knew is now disappearing? He's become now this, instead of this peaceful farmer, that has faded away, and now he's this murderous
So it has this history of being a war hero that's like constantly coming. People are like, oh, what happened at Camp Mountaineer or whatever?
Yeah,
like,
right. Fort
obviously
Wilderness.
this guy is the greatest war hero ever.
Makes him revered. People love a guy who kills a lot of people.
And that's kind of what I got from the movie. Is like it's the whole thing about like the more established, bigger army trying to fight formally, and the underdogs using like guerrilla war tactics like the Viet Cong or any type of like small army during an insurgency.
He follows his son, and then Heath goes, and he's almost going to join the war again. He walks into this like mansion, and then out the back window he watches like a big battle take place. And this is actually one of the first times we see like a big battle taking place. There was kind of some battle out in Mel's front yard, but this is really like in full daylight, full glory. We see cannons taking people's heads off and people just like dying left and right. I almost saw this as maybe a parallel to Heath safe at home watching through this screen that is television.
Like the war is literally come to your doorstep.
Yeah.
So you really can't avoid interacting with it at this point.
But at this point, he says, I'm not going back. He doesn't go back. He changes his mind, and him and Mel go back home. Yeah. So kind of weird. But then, so then we go over to Tavington, and he's getting his ass ate out by his commander there, freaking Cornwallis. He's not literally getting his ass eaten out.
They say you should call him Cornholus. Just eating people's asses.
But who's played by...
It is noon. We need to take a break from the war for tea and ass eating, as is British custom.
Yes, as it is.
Sir Tarvington, prepare to toss my salad. It's like no wonder these people fucking lost the war.
Yeah.
They're like carrying like huge beds and shit with them and fucking
wearing dresses and eating each other's buttholes. Yeah. You think we should bring frilly wigs back into the courts, Gary?
I believe the wig was from when everybody had syphilis and lost their hair.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then you just put on a wig
and put a big powder wig over your head because you lost all your hair from syphilis.
Oh, God, horrible.
This might have been a bit after that.
Nobody wants syphilis, Gary.
Nobody wants syphilis. Nobody wants to be British.
Yeah. So anyway, Lord Cornwallis, played by Tom Wilkinson, who is a phenomenal actor. I've liked him in everything I've seen him. Tells Tavington to cool off with his brutal tactics. But Tavington has daddy issues. So we can obviously expect some war crimes or an OnlyFans page. And in fact, back in the day, they didn't have AC, so they only had fans. Only fans. Bad joke. So Benjamin, he goes out and he enlists a bunch of Southern folk who don't really want to join the war other than revenge, like revenge reasons. They want to loot and pillage the dead bodies of the British, and they want to eat dogs. So they go around and they start employing these guerrilla tactics. You're just doing all sorts of stuff. In fact, at some point, they all pop out of a field surrounding some like a British convoy, and then they all start shooting at it. Wouldn't that shoot everybody on the opposite side too?
Yeah, that's a logical thought. Also, I think they make a point in this movie to be like, to pull back the barbaricism. There's a moment where they go overboard and they kill a bunch of British soldiers, and they're like, this is not how we should behave, and it's not befitting of us.
I think Mel even says his line is, quote, "Don't just kill all willy-nilly, you silly killy hillbillies."
Does he really say that?
No.
Where fucking Dr. Seuss do a rewrite on the Patriot? They're fighting like it's a fucking old war, like they're going to play chess. So they're all wearing red and they're all walking in line.
Yeah,
like,
on a big open field, everybody walks towards each other. This was crazy. I can't believe wars were ever fought like that. Okay, now I stand and you shoot me, and then I load my gun and I shoot you, and then we just both die. What do you... More people died in hospitals than in
from
battle.
Infection and stuff.
From infection, because they didn't know about things like bloodborne diseases, and like they were sharing rags, like bloody rags between people. Oh, give me your fucking rag, let me put it on this guy's organs. They were doing all sorts of like amputations. They didn't have anesthesia back then. They only had like opium and laudanum, which is alcohol plus opium. So they only had opium. I think we learned a lot of stuff about amputations from the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
But and like spread of disease and hygienics in like medical facilities.
Yeah, I don't even know if were germs even discovered at this point.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if there's like germ theory.
Yeah, maybe not. At this point, we're not even a country yet. 1776. That's a whole year after the war began that we even wrote the Declaration. War is crazy and not great.
It's an insane waste of resources.
It really is.
It's not an accident. It's designed to be this way.
Designed this way. Our lead in this movie was anti-war until everybody in that whole room said, "But war is the only way." Yeah,
and he had something to fight for. It's like
he's got kids and he doesn't want to leave them to be unfathered or whatever. But if the message from everybody is war is the only way, we've tried talking about it, but they won't listen. I don't know. I mean, that's just the story we're told. So I don't know if that's actually the truth, but it seems to be. If everybody holds that to be true, that becomes the truth.
What? I'm sorry, I'm lost.
That war is the only way to make change. Well, if that is the narration that
political power comes from the barrel of a gun.
I think this is what I'm saying though, Gary. If that's how it works, that's how we think it works, and so that's how it works. If we all agreed that that's not how it works and that talking about it is how it should work, then that's how it would work. But if we all say, no, it's the person with a gun who's going to shoot you if you don't agree, then yeah, I guess that is how it works.
Oh, okay.
You disagree?
I think the Revolutionary War, we were pretty just to fight the British. And unfortunately, because we're so far away, it's just like having control over a country across the ocean is just not really possible back then. And it's like, fuck them.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be like sympathetic to the British? They
No.
suck my fucking dick.
To create images is always a challenge. Digital magic.